Thank you. Okay, so our topic today is Kislev. It's appropriate because it's Rosh Chodesh. Last week we I'll
Where's
kind of
the moon?
sorry,
I didn't look to see where the moon was.
like in the sky or
No,
in
no, in terms of its stage of development. If
It's new moon.
it's new
It
moon.
is new, it is small. the
Yeah.
silver's showing, okay.
And it's interesting from an astrological perspective. You can actually look to see what zodiac the moon is in.
Yeah.
And right now it's in Sag. And when you have we'll learn today that Sagittarius is connected with Kislev. And so the sun is in Sag and the moon is in Sag. And when that happens, that's when we have a new moon, which is Rosh Chodesh. So it's kind of fun to see how like these concepts play together and show us like a pattern. But so Kislev, first of all, I want to let's do a little icebreaker. We may not know all each other's names. I'm Katriel.
You do.
I'm Jaina.
We know each other.
Okay.
Jana, do you know our names?
Elaine, Michelle,
Harriet.
Harriet. Okay.
There we go. And let's start off with like a cool little icebreaker. Since we're heading into Hanukkah times, what is your favorite Hanukkah food?
Absolutely.
Ladka?
Homemade latkes with applesauce.
Ah, I'm with you, Stefaniot.
I've only had latkes. So this is my first Hanukkah. So.
Okay, cool. I love it. And let's see here. Let's get down to business because
With applesauce.
Sour
that's a good
cream.
question. I love sour
Well, you
cream.
can't do that if you have a
That's
brisket.
right, that's right.
If you serve them with brisket, no sour
Sour
cream.
cream, that's
They
right.
have
applesauce.
almond
I love
sour cream.
brisket.
Oh,
right?
almond, oh, I'll stick with the applesauce.
That's true, because then you can have brisket.
Yeah.
Unless you get the vegan sour cream.
Yeah. What she's saying,
Almond,
yeah.
coconut. I think the coconut would be better with. the
Oh,
latkes.
coconut would be good anyway.
So- The themes we're going to be talking about today is trust and the Hebrew word. Let me see how. It's bitachon. We'll try it.
CHON.
I can't remember how to spell it in Hebrew right now. And the second concept is going to be miracles. Third, dreams and imaginations. 4, light and darkness. And then we'll talk about also the astrology a little bit, its connection point, and then the tribe. So for the first, let's talk about the energy of Kislev with trust and faith. Kabbalistic concept for trust is Kislev derives from the Hebrew root word with the KSL. I can't think. Hebrew word or letter. Cough. Yeah, cough. And meaning security or trust. This reflects the profound energy of bitachon, absolute trust in divine providence. So when we think of Kislev, what comes to mind at experiencing this time of year?
Miracle.
Miracles? Okay. Let me use a different color. Too much blue.
When you say Kislev, you're referring specifically to Hanukkah or the month that Hanukkah falls, but are you referring to Hanukkah when you say what comes to mind with Kislev? Because if it's Hanukkah, then things are gonna come to my mind. If it's Kislev, nothing will except month.
Okay, so let's actually put down Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, was that Hanukkah? We would say Kislev.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
I think a family of tradition, of singing joyful songs, of eating latkes, of lighting the candles each night and getting the little gelt, the little coins and the chocolate coins and the gold wrapping. And of the 8th day, seeing the 8 candles, of the beauty of all of them lit. We all used to love that.
So what's interesting is what you just specifically said, the 8th day. That actually is not in Kislev, which is the interesting part of Hanukkah. It actually falls within 2 Jewish months. And it's because when
It's the 25th day of Kislev when it starts.
yes,
Hanukkah. I always remember because of the other holiday that's December 25th. So I've always, somehow I've remembered it because the Hanukkah is the 25th of Kislev. So again, like you're saying, 8 days is gonna be into another month.
yeah,
Yeah, but it started.
It started,
in-
yeah.
In Kislev, and it's going, the tradition and the candle lighting is
Mhm.
continuing on, even if the month changed. You're still in the process. and that's-
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
I love that. And I'm gonna carve out a little bit of like when we like in regards to Hanukkah and going into that Tevet month. Why is that significant that we started in Kislev? Anything else come up in regards to Kislev?
Can I say something else on Hanukkah?
Sure.
It's a holiday that differs from others. There's no atoning, there's no renewal. It's just fun, singing, spinning the dreidel, eating latkes, lighting the candles, and it's joyful and it's family connected. That's what I think of.
I love that.
I think it's not in the Torah either.
It's
It's
not.
not.
It's not in the.
Well, the
Torah.
Maccabee story is
Maccabee
not.
story,
Yeah.
It is.
It's in our history, though.
History,
It must
yeah.
be in rabbinical writings, the Maccabees. I mean, it's in the Apocrypha, which is not in our Bible.
Right.
Except I understand it is in the Egyptian Hebrew. I read somewhere,
Interesting.
the Jews of Egypt have it in their.
Oh, okay.
hymns. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a rabbinical holiday, along with Purim. Those are the two that we do not find in the Torah, which is really
Along
profound.
with,
Purim,
Purim.
the story of Esther.
Yeah.
So
I have a book of Esther.
correct.
Yeah. So she's in the Tanakh. She's not in the Torah, but it's in the Bible.
But this is the only particular holiday that is not even in, our Hebrew Bible, which
Yeah.
is interesting. So what comes up with Kislev is all about trust. And it's this trust beyond logic. Because we think about the Hanukkah story, there's only one day of oil. And we had to stretch that because, we wanted holy oil, from the temple. And, fathomable, like our minds were like, okay, that's not going to go that far, like logically. But in our life, there's lots of times when we can say, oh, this is not going to happen. But when we put our focus on a greater purpose, that connection to the divine, all of those like limitations are blown apart. It's like during this time of month, like this particular month, it's all about changing that narrative, changing our belief system. And so and the story of
Changing our
Hanukkah,
belief system.
changing our belief system of what is possible. Because we think of a miracle is not logical, right?
Well, in the Amida,
Okay.
the sixth prayer, thank you, God, for the miracles you set before me daily and the wonders and gifts you set before me evening, morning, and noon. Now, what are the miracles that God sets before us every day? So how do you look at miracle? To me, the miracle, you open your eyes in the morning and you say, Modani lefanecha, I woke up to see the new day. I have a good friend in their 40s. Her twin sister, they were closer to each other than to their spouses. The twin sister died in the night from a seizure. Everybody was flabbergasted, shocked. She did not wake up. And, so it's not something we can take for granted, just our getting up every morning.
I agree. Amen.
So how you look at miracles.
And it can be in the tiny little things, the things that we take for granted, like you're saying.
The things we take for granted.
Yeah.
If you've ever had really bad asthma, where you can't breathe and you've got to go, which I did, go on a breathing machine from school to the doctor and sit there to come back.
Yeah.
And then the asthma kind of goes away as you get older and start biking. Oh my God, I'm breathing with no inhaler for 15 or 20 years now. So to me, that's major miracle.
That's beautiful. I
Yeah.
actually, I experienced something very similar this week on Thanksgiving. I woke up and I went, the turkey trot that's around here.
Yeah.
I wanted to go volunteer for an organization to like help park cars during that whole thing. And it got so foggy. And I was one of those kids that had asthma. And it started to just a little bit because that deep fog. But then I realized, wow, I have done so much work in regards to I actually biked there, which is kind of funny. You said that.
20 years on Ellis Trail.
And then I've been also working on my breathing, and I was like, wow, if this would have been 10 years ago, like it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
So what is a miracle, everyday kind of thing we take for granted, that like is a miracle in your life?
Everything's
a miracle.
a miracle.
Your car starts.
That's right.
I've been having some issues with that, so yes,
The darn cell phone. It'd be a
It
miracle.
work well and everything else works well.
It's a question of
Yeah.
it's recognizing the miracles and the gifts and wonders that you have every single day. During COVID, and then I'm going to shut up because it just comes boiling over. People went into terrible depression. There were even suicide attempts. Terrible things happened. Why? We were kind of confined. We had air conditioning, we had heat, we had cars we could get into, we had malls that were open. We had televisions, we had computers. And I'm thinking, if you've ever visited the Anne Frank attic in Amsterdam, for 2 years, 7 people were stuck in a room with no windows. Somebody had to smuggle in food. They worked out an exercise program on the floor. She kept her diary. They got on each other's nerves, but they got through 2 years with no access to anything. I mean, most of them ended up dying in a camp. But for those 2 years, they were hopeful. But they had no window. They never left the room, and they survived it. And we in COVID had our lives. We had people who cared about us. We had our TVs, our computers, our cars. Why did we go crazy? Why did we go insane over that?
Because people didn't have your perspective of what you're saying about Anne Frank. Everything is relative. People, they have, like you say, they had everything, but to them, because they couldn't go out or they couldn't be with people, that they had
Your word that you just used is the
social
key. The perspective, get a different perspective on life.
A
What to be
positive,
so grateful for.
positive instead of a negative.
Yep.
Agreed. It's kind of funny. The whole,
Judaism, the way people say, take who is it is, I think it's Alan Dershowitz, take the oi out of Judaism and put the joy of Judaism.
Joy, well, that
Judaism.
gratitude is such a
Right, but
big.
that's
Oh.
right. When people are looking at Judaism, say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other thing. But there are reasons why you can't. And if you knew the reasons, I mean, you'd see the joy of it.
Well, and that's not gonna matter to whatever God is in the end, whether I have done that Haftorah on Yom Kippur
Right.
by Isaiah,
Mm.
where Isaiah, in behalf of God, says, don't tell me about your fast. Have you taken care
Okay,
of the
well,
widow and the
that's
orphan?
right.
Have you paid your laborer?
Right.
The fast I want is for you to loosen yourself from that greed and to do the right thing. The rituals and the don't eat this and don't eat that don't matter unless you put them in perspective.
Well, that's right.
Mm.
That's
right.
not-
That's right. Ritual and ethics. That's it. If you have the rituals
No.
of the ethics or the ethics, which is more important. And God would rather have those.
Rather have the ethics and the
ethics, that's right.
behavior than the rituals.
right.
And the gratitude. I lost a beloved uncle 2 years ago. I never knew my father. He was killed in the war at the end of World War II. This was
Sorry.
his brother, who was a widower that I lived near for many, many, many years.
Wow.
Gratitude, 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 gratitude. The seventh child born in the first generation American, born from impoverished people who escaped Europe.
Wow.
And he's told he's in stage 4 kidney disease and has to go on dialysis. What does he say? I'm so grateful I can drive myself to the Fresenius Center. I don't have to go on a gurney like so many people come in, or a wheelchair. He's grateful. He's just been told he's got this end stage disease. But he was raised Orthodox, and that's very Jewish. That gratitude. I'm still alive. I can drive. I can see. Whoa, he taught me a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Back to the perspective and the
It's-
attitude.
it is.
And the attitude.
Yeah.
It's back to, yeah.
I want to kind of, because originally I was
I'm
going to
done
say
here.
something. No,
No.
this is perfect. It's actually really perfect. Last week, I kind of want to talk about a little bit of what we did last week because
Yeah,
it
and
was
I will
about,
admit, but I had another meeting, so I would have come, but okay. I'm glad
it's
you
okay. I
said
have it
that.
on recording if you need it.
Oh, okay, good.
So I just want to, because I want to draw a bridge here, essentially. So as of yesterday, we were in Cheshvan, right? And Cheshvan is a very different energy. It has that connotation of Mar, if we look at it that way. But it can also be the blessing. And we talked about these deep layered concepts of like, what's the unseen? What is the unlimited potential? And the difference between like Mar, bitterness, and the sweetness that we may not be able to necessarily touch yet or experience yet. But then we move into this energy of Kislev, which is the exact opposite energy. And it is centered around perspective. It is like, you hear the glass half empty or the glass half full. Well, Kislev isn't half empty or half full. It's the full glass and it's overflowing. And that's what this time of year is all about, is really taking that perspective of just like complete joy and wearing those glasses and experiencing everything through that lens. And so it's, especially with like, the last year, we've had, as being Jewish, that can sometimes be kind of difficult. But then when you refocus yourself and you realize, wow, how many blessings are in my life that I can actually connect with even this class,
Why is it difficult to be Jewish?
Well, I meant more so of, what has happened in regards to October
prejudice
7th and
The-
these harder things to digest. Like it's shocking to our conscience.
Yeah, October 7th, that was a big one.
Oh, the world.
The world.
But it's
Yeah.
ever been thus. If
Yeah.
we grew up with that, certainly our ancestors that came over and steered, some of them, and made a life, their children made a life for themselves here. It's always been there. I mean, I could tell you, but I won't take your time. As a teacher, things that I heard, I was the only,
Yeah.
you know, I just let it go, just stay out of my face, leave me be and think whatever you want. I don't care, because it's always been there.
This was on a
It's
bigger
true.
scale. I mean, this was on the college campuses. It was all over.
But you've got people
Right.
going into those things that don't care one way or the other. It's just a chance to be a rabble rouser.
Well, that's right, and that was the problem. I mean, that's a whole nother issue, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
part of it, that the administrators should have done something, okay, but that's a lot, that's a.
We're
Yeah,
getting
but
off.
this year for that, there's been more anti-Semitism than there has been. There always has been, but this year it was a lot more in all these countries, and it all came out.
Yeah.
Worse.
Yeah, but essentially it's like, for instance, we still have hostages and different things, these harder things to digest that they have been around for as
Forever.
long as we have existed.
That's right.
But our story of essentially recalling the miracle, our togetherness, all of these different, things coming together, it makes us stronger and stronger to be able to fully celebrate. And that's something we really do well, is celebrate, break bread. Like,
This war, there have been miracles.
Truth.
Rescues and all kinds of miracles, even within the war.
Yes.
Itself.
So, I have a text here, for this one. It's on second page. Sorry. Does anybody want to read it?
What
They're
is it?
Oh, sorry. It's at the very
double-sided,
top.
by the way.
Yeah, they are. I'm sorry.
Like this one sentence,
Yeah, just one sentence.
the one who trusts in Hashem will be surrounded with loving kindness.
Where did you just read that?
Very top.
On page 2?
It says at the very top, it says handout 2, selected texts and reflection questions. And then underneath it says text 1.
Pages are
Oh.
double-sided, so.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I meant to have
oh,
the 1, 2 on there, and next time I'll do that.
okay. I see.
So, the reflection question for that is, how do you define trust in your life?
How do you define trust? The trust means you believe in someone, you feel confident, you trust a person. How do you define it? Or where do you find it?
So when we read, the one who trusts in Hashem will be surrounded with loving kindness, what sparks something for you in regards to how trust is defined? Where does it come from?
Trust is faith in something or someone. You believe in it. You trust it, or if it's a person.
I think like an agreement.
Hmm.
So like, if something is like outlined, out there,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in writing or in speech or in like a obligation somebody has to somebody else, that it's that agreement that
An agreement.
is there. And so you follow it like a map.
Yeah.
I love that.
An agreement with a person
Or with God,
or with
God.
God.
or with like a teaching.
Or with anybody, any relationship you'll have, a rabbi, anybody, like saying teacher, and then, with anybody, a friend or
I think more
anybody.
personally, like I think I trust my husband and son to always be there for me. As best they can be. I feel I would never be abandoned or let down or not helped, that they would always be there for me. That's my level of trust. Having someone in life that you're safe, that you can turn to.
But it's like an unspoken agreement. You
Yeah.
know, because you expect that predominantly because you would be that person for them.
And because there's
Mm.
love, because you love each other and you tend to trust people you love, usually, maybe not always, but I think.
It's like an unwavering faith.
Yeah.
But it would happen with your puppy.
Yeah,
So when you said the word feeling, I like that, it's a feeling. Too, I mean,
It's a knowing.
you know.
I love this. When you said agreement, something really like stuck out to me. Like, for instance, the flood, right? Flood actually, this is actually something I was going to bring in, and it's just kind of happening, so I'm going with it. Flood actually started in Cheshvan, but it was complete in Kislev.
Mm.
What's interesting about that is we see the symbolism of the bow and covenant, which is an agreement between
Right.
us and Hashem. So like it's in that that bow is 1000% connected with Kislev. And so it's really interesting that agreement is a huge principle to the energy of being able to have trust, to be able to be joyful, to have that unwavering faith, that inner knowing, that unconditional love. That's profound. I love that. So I want to ask a follow-up question with that. What helps you cultivate trust when challenges arise?
the knowing the person you trust. The challenge doesn't destroy your trust. If you have that, and you have that feeling for that person or that unspoken agreement with that person.
Hmm.
The challenge is something maybe you'd be in to get, you'd help each other along in it. I don't know that the challenge would take the trust away.
Mm,
I think it's something that kind of renews itself. So when the challenge comes, another person meets it, or that other thing meets it, it kind of renews the agreement or the trust that's in there.
I think looking back at past experiences as well.
mm.
Like precedent.
Mhm.
Like a
Yeah.
precedent that it
Yeah,
happened before.
exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting when you take that and center it around our connection with Hashem. You know, when hard times come, but still there's this inner knowing that everything's gonna be okay. Just you gotta take one more step because you don't see the whole picture. It's like so interesting. Okay. So the next part, let's see here. I want to go over the archer's spiritual journey, which is keshet, the bow. Symbolism of the bow and arrow. In Kabbalah, the bow represents human effort, while the arrow represents divine assistance. We must stretch the bow, push ourselves spiritually and emotionally, but the arrow's success depends on higher forces. The inner archer, Sagittarius, teaches us to aim high and focus on our spiritual goals. The key is aligning our target with divine will. So this is actually really funny. I was going to actually bring a bow and arrow to class today, and I was like, we'll do this in our minds because that's a little much. But what is something that you're wanting to like have a goal this month. But it doesn't just depend on you. Like also it depends on this kind of divinity, right? This connection with Hashem. So maybe we can come up with something. You could say it out loud or not. And we could do like a little brief meditation on this, because this is going to help us focus and bring that into our awareness, and also take this on our journey, after we leave the room and everything. Does that make sense?
No,
Okay. So essentially,
what is our job? What do you want us to do?
an intention of something that we want to focus on this month.
For the new month, something we want to focus on.
Yes.
Being a better person is the part of the ritual, part of the expectation. We
Okay.
look back and say, how can I be a little better, a little happier, a little healthier, and a little better human being in the month coming?
I like this.
It's kind of like a small Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. Because it's a looking back. I mean, it's a Rosh
Yeah.
Chodesh, the head of the month and the head of the year. We look back on what we're leaving and think, how can we better the one that's coming?
Yeah.
Where Shabbat is rest. You don't think of anything. You put your feet up, look at the birds, and don't do any mental or physical work. But Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah, you do. You're supposed, it's a time of renewal. You have to look at the month that's leaving and say, okay, where did I mess up? What do I need to do to make it better? Make myself a little better, be a little better person in the month ahead. That's my understanding of the concept.
I love that.
I think it's also good for, personal goals or whatever as well, so for me, like I make my own herbal and holistic products, and so I have a goal of really getting out some new tea blends and some new products this month. So I really want to focus on that. I want to pull that bow back and just really allow my focus forward.
Okay. So yours is having to do with like, I'm gonna put business goal
Yeah.
that benefits self and others. Because they're healing products. Okay. Anyone else?
Keep my house clean. Clean more often.
Okay. Clean house, I like that.
Well, that would fit in with the thing on Rosh Chodesh.
What did you say?
Cleaning my closet.
Okay.
Right, cleaning, we'll just do it general.
It's trying to handle life a little better, a
That's
little bit
right.
better. That's
That's
what
right.
it's all about.
Right.
And taking a look at yourself and saying, well, I can improve on X, Y, or Z.
Ironically, mine is a clean office.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say, I bet it's cleaning out a desk or doing something like that.
Because I had just got like all the key essentials, and yesterday I'm so grateful I got a Shark vacuum on sale, and that's going to help the process because we have pets, and I'm like, yeah. So like they might seem like trivial things, but they impact so much.
And stress causes stress because you
That's
think about it, I really want to do this. And once it's done, your mind clears up a little bit.
Right. Exactly. So I just kind of want to take a moment. It's not going to be a very long meditation, but just to kind of recenter ourselves in regards to our intentions on the board. And if it goes somewhere else too, that's okay. So he's having our feet firmly on the ground. Just notice where maybe you put your hands and how it you know, like where that draws comfort for you. Let's take a deep breath in. And out. Another deep breath in. And out. On this next one, imagine all of the light of the divine coming through you and just going around your entire being. In and out. In this space, allow us to connect to Hashem, to the divine. Allowing for like maybe a cloud above our head or some physical symbol or etheric symbol to keep our focus on. Just take a moment to be in this space, feeling the warm embrace. Feeling this agreement, a covenant with your Creator. It's just you and Source. Maybe asking for a little guidance in this space. Now, remember what your intention was. It's intention that's going to help you be a stronger person, more grounded in the world that's outside this space. Imagine from this cloud, Hashem plants you on the ground. You're in a field. And there's this target that's in the distance. Imagine this bow and arrow in your hand. It's your job to pull the bow back or the arrow back. But you're asking the divine to help that process. Whatever that intention was, that goal that you have for this month. Clear focus and precision to guide that arrow. When you have a good view, maybe imagine yourself and even act it out. Taking the bow and the arrow and pulling it back and seeing how effortless this comes into fruition. Just asking Hashem to help you in this process. Taking a deep breath in. And when you're ready, letting go of that arrow. Notice in your mind's eye if you hit the target. Bringing this back in to this little world that you have with your divine creator. Feeling completely and fully supported. Giving thanks for this beautiful experience. When you're ready, allowing yourself to come back into this world. A little bit more grounded and connected with your creator. When you're ready, wiggling your toes, your ankles, your hands and your wrists. Feeling maybe your sit bone. Placing our hands on our heart. Taking a deep breath in. Saying shalom. Shalom. Again. Shalom. And one more time. Shalom. How's that for you?
You want to make a connection to the divine. The sun sets at about 6 o'clock. Go out toward the west and look at the colors in the sky, and you will have what Abram Heschel calls radical amazement, a sense of radical amazement at the beauty of the night sky. As the winter comes, they get better and better, the sunsets. But
That's amazing. I love that. Let's see.
And that, like, it almost didn't matter what, like, if the the arrow reached the target. Like, it was just like the process, like, it didn't really matter. And then, like, when I released the arrow, it didn't hit the target, and then I went to go get the arrow and like
try again
Try
another
again.
time.
but like it became less important.
I love that.
That's
The
awesome.
process more than the.
The journey,
Yeah, I
not the
think- I
destination.
think with that,
I love that.
the journey and the intent behind it.
I feel that. How is it for you?
The first step, I would say, the first step is always the hardest, the intent, the motivation. So you had that because you knew you were gonna try, you're gonna try to do whatever you said you were gonna do. The arrow, just the pulling, just being able to do that and thinking about it.
It's so beautiful, because in our tradition, we're so connected to intention in everything we do, with every prayer that we say, from the moment that we say Modeh or Moda'ani to the moment where we say the Shema before we go to bed. There's intention that guides us. And I feel like, you know, when we can essentially take one intention to the next, it just helps us with the flow of our day. And, you know, and it can be connected to things as like cleaning our own home, you know, or making products, because we're putting that love and intention in throughout and seeing our connection with divine source.
And our home is like our, I can't think what they call it, but your home is like a spiritual place. I mean, it's like a temple, well, not a temple, but in a way it is. This is where you live. So you want it to be clean and holy. I can't, there's a phrase for that. You know, I'm thinking what we call our home. Our castle, yeah, but something more spiritual.
But can we get mad at our husbands if they mess it up?
They
do stuff. They forget to close drawers.
That's right, that's part of life. Part of life.
So I want to take us for a moment because you mentioned temple, and
A sanctuary, things like a sanctuary, like with like candles, I mean, we
Yeah.
try to have your Jewish books.
Well, it is our
It is our sanctuary, so we want it to be clean, we want it to be nice.
Definitely.
it's interesting because you know, the Holy Temple has a major connection to this time of month, and just how we naturally brought that in. The tribe that's connected with Kislev is actually Benjamin. And the tribe of Benjamin associated with Kislev represents resilience and the ability to reveal hidden sparks of holiness. He was the only son born in the land of Israel, symbolizing the soul's alignment with its divine purpose. And connection of the Holy Temple. Benjamin's territory included the location of the Holy of Holies, emphasizing the Kislev connects us to our inner sacred space, where miracles and trust are born.
It's only tangentially related, but I'm wondering when Rachel died, he was born in the land of Israel, and she died by the road, but she'd obviously already given birth. So
Right.
So he must have already been alive when she died. Well, of course. I mean, she gave birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were not in Israel. They were traveling somewhere. I don't know. I'll have to check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's a there's a lot of material.
On the side of the road, right. Just do so much at one time.
It's really interesting, you know, like it really goes back to when I said like put those glasses of Kislev on. It's not just putting those glasses on. It's like, what does those glasses represent? You know? It is that trust and that resilience and that connection to the divine that carries us through and motivates us and connects us to this sacred space of the Holy Temple. It's actually really interesting because I was talking last week in regards to Cheshvan, and Cheshvan is connected with there's many Kabbalists that believe that the Holy Temple will be built in the month of Cheshvan. And partially that's believed. There's actually no written writings about this. I actually was like, whoa, okay. I'm like, where is this coming from? But one of the things is that it was actually finished, the first temple, King Solomon's temple, in Cheshvan. So there's this kind of idea that's floating around. But then we look about, you know, like the concept of the temple and how does that connect with Kislev? Well, at that moment in time, we look at the Hanukkah story. and how it was desecrated, but there was still holy oil. There was still that tiny little sliver that will allow us to bring that physical manifestation of light. And really, it's a symbolism of where does that light come from? And for me, it's that was that spark that we were created with. You know, it's that breath of life. And so I kind of want to take us into the symbolism of the light of the menorah. And then we'll also tackle this piece of Hanukkah of Hillel versus Shammai. Kabbalistic symbolism of light. The menorah represents the soul's light and the divine spark within each of us. Lighting the menorah during Hanukkah symbolizes drawing divine light into the physical world. 8 days and the infinite. The 8 candles of the menorah responds to transcendence. 7 represents the natural cycle, while 8 symbolizes the infinite. This teaches us that the miracles occur when we reach beyond our perceived limitations.
This is all Kabbalah. This is a Kabbalistic interpretation.
Yes, yes. And it's really interesting. When I guess it goes back to miracle, right? But let's go specifically to the miracle of Hanukkah. They thought it was absolutely impossible that this light or this oil would last. They probably thought it was, you know, like, okay, we got it for a day, that's it, right? And it went beyond what they could even fathom, you know? And when we think about something like more difficult in our life, let's bring it back to Hanukkah again. We had the Maccabees, right? And we were fighting to make sure that we were still going forward as a people, that we were to live. And they were like yeshiva boys, pretty much. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Very well. One of the things they were opposed to was the Hellenistic influence. A lot of Jews had kind of converted to the Greek ways, the Hellenistic ways. And I am not sure, we don't really know for sure, did they do any damage to their own people who had converted? You know, there's a lot we don't know. We don't even really know if that oil is part of just a legend or if it really existed. It tends to lean toward legend, but nevertheless, for thousands of years, it's been part of the culture, you know, just like the Exodus. So I don't know, I was just thinking of that. The Hellenists, with the Maccabees coming out of the hills and furious at what they saw.
Right.
And they even put a Greek god up in the temple.
Right.
Zeus.
But this concept of miracle is literally going beyond our like limitations, essentially, because it's not coming from us directly.
The miracle, let alone that it lasted for a day, let alone there was enough that they didn't spoil all of it.
True.
To even have enough to last a day.
True. So I'm going to read Inner Light and Miracles, the text that's connected with Proverbs 20:27. The soul of man is the lamp of God. What comes up for you when that's read?
What did you ask? Did you ask us?
So I said the soul of man
Yeah,
is the lamp of God.
okay.
What comes up for you?
Well, we have divinity within us. I mean, God is not incorporeal in Judaism. God is everywhere, every leaf, every bird, every insect, every human. That divinity is in us. So perhaps the light just reflects that, what we already have, the strength and the goodness that's in us, that's part of God.
I love that.
God's light in us. Makes sense.
It's interesting because you said reflection, and like we're all reflections of the divine. We're reflections of each other. And how often do we go out and, you know, it, live out our best version of ourselves?
This also connects us to all living things and all our fellow humans, that we all are
True.
part of that divine being. We're all there together. And so it makes it harder to understand people turning on other people or destroying the natural world. It's all part of God.
Right. Kind of, for some reason in my mind's eye, I kept seeing like, okay, well, much of this is actually paying attention to that divinity, right? To be able to share it. The focus point.
To mention, one thing, it's in Lev Shalem, the prayer book that we use on Shabbat.
Yeah.
On 192, on the left-hand panel, Abram Heschel says there are 3 ways to connect to God.
Ooh, I like this.
All right. The first way is be amazed at the world, the natural world. The second way are the teachings in Torah, to listen, read them carefully and go by them, follow them.
Mhm.
And the third way is act on them, to do the deeds, to do it. But for years, I've been looking at that, and I tend to take a walk at sunup every morning. And I go out, but I've had that lingering in my brain. And if you don't count, you can't count your steps, and you can't start thinking of what you have to do. You have to be into the world. And I can't tell you what I've discovered. A pileated woodpecker, an armadillo running across the road. And I just took a picture, just did this. I'll just show you the picture because it's God's world. Pictures. Camera. I'll find him. It's a little bug. Here he is. So I blew him up and I thought, oh my God, look how God made him. His colors, his legs, his wow.
Oh, wow.
I think it might be
Oh,
a grasshopper.
It's I
Yeah.
can't remember the
But
name. It's a type of grasshopper.
But I looked at him and he's part of it too. The way he's constructed so that he can live and function and hold on to leaves.
Not in my house.
Yeah. But Orthodox Jews in Europe would never kill it. They would cup the insect in their hand and throw it out the window because it had a little soul. You didn't kill it. We tend to stamp on things and kill them. But I think Abram Heschel has just made me so aware of that way of connecting to divinity by looking at the world I'm walking in early in the morning, the cloud formations, the insects, the birds, these live oaks. I live where there's a ton of live oaks with their branches. Some of them are hundreds of years old, and it just it's an amazing connection you can make.
That's amazing.
That's the first way that he cites.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's the soul of man is the lamp of God, but I keep seeing, instead of SOUL, it's SOLE, meaning like the sole of our feet. So the work we
Ooh.
do, it's the things that we put into the world, it's the places we go, it's that kind of light that we bring.
sounds good too.
It's actually funny because then I also think of Sol, S-O-L, like the sun, and sharing that sunshine with
Yeah.
everyone.
It all works. It all works.
Because it's sun, it's light.
Yeah.
Katriel and my fellow attendants, I am so sorry, but I thought it was a half-hour class, so I've been here an hour, but we have a luncheon date with
Yeah.
other people have invited us out. So I have to go get dressed. I'm so sorry.
It's
but
okay.
Thank
It's
you. I'm
okay.
glad I. could be here.
Thank you for being here.
Coming. Now you have a little peace and quiet.
No, this is great. I love interactive classes.
I went to like the lamp and it being, whether it was like the hurricane or like a Salvation Army, that like some people choose that their lamp is not displayed and it's put away.
Mm.
And like using that is, you choose what you want to do with yourself and your person.
Try the other side.
So, because there's people that like it's still a lamp and it could be wonderful and beautiful somewhere, but if there's no light on it or so nobody knows that it's there, so it has to be out, or somebody that doesn't know how to use their lamp. And
Yeah.
you
Right.
need somebody else to like come teach you.
Yeah.
Another thing that came to me was how much a smile brings, and sharing that. It's kind of its own lamp in a way, right? And like it's really hard to be around someone and be negative when someone's smiling, right? Like I automatically want to like shift gears. Like, oh, well, that was pretty trivial, like whatever I was going through, or like why would like I don't want to share that like negative energy with that person next to me, and it kind of puts things into perspective. It's like, wow. So it's like, I don't know, it's interesting.
Back to perspective.
Right?
Go back to perspective. That's right. That half full or half empty. I mean, you walk by people and you smile, and they don't smile.
That was my experience to go into Turkey Trot
Yeah.
because I walked from our house. I should have taken my bike, but I didn't. And there was a guy next to me. We were both listening to our books or music or something on the way there. And he said something about like, I really appreciate you smiling at me. Like it was an older guy. I mean, a guy older than I am. So it was just really interesting because it comes up a lot where, sometimes like the police or whatever, firemen, they're just like, I just need somebody to smile at me and not like take me for granted. And then when I like say that, it puts you in a different mood.
That's right. Okay, so when you smile, did he smile back at you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good. 'Cause like I said, sometimes you smile and people don't. Okay.
Nobody actually like said, like, I really appreciate your smile.
Right. That's right.
And like, meanwhile, we were like, 5 minutes away from getting to like the starting spot and then like turning around and going to do it again.
Again, people take things for granted. People are so used to people not smiling that, or being nice or whatever it is, that when somebody does smile or is nice, it's nice. It's nice when they appreciate when you're nice also.
Yeah.
But yeah, they appreciate because it's something different. They're not used to, people don't smile. And when somebody does, they appreciate it.
And it's contagious in a good way.
That's right. Yes.
So I think we kind of touched upon some of those reflection questions and just what we were talking about. So I want to kind of take us to the concepts of Hillel versus Shammai for the Hanukkah story. Does anybody feel comfortable with reading?
English?
Yeah, English, not Hebrew. I feel like it'd probably be more productive in English.
I don't want to read. Just like rotate.
Sure, yeah.
Paragraph.
Whenever you feel complete, and then
I'll just read the paragraph.
sure.
The sages taught in Baraita, the basic mitzvah of Hanukkah is each day to have light kindled by a person, the head of the household, for themselves and their household.
And the Mahadrim, those who are super strict in the performance of mitzvot, kindle a light for each and every one in the household.
And the Mehadrin mean Hamahadrin, who are even more meticulous, adjust the number of lights daily. Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel disagree to the nature of that adjustment.
Beit Shammai says, on the first day, one kindles 8 lights, and from there on gradually decreases the number of lights until on the last day of Hanukkah, they kindle 1 light.
And the Beit Hillel, on the first day, one kindles 1 light, and thereon gradually increases the number of lights until on the last day they kindle 8 lights.
Before we move forward, I kind of want to unpack this for a moment. Why? I'm going to go with Shammai first. Why would Shammai feel called to have that perspective? That the lights decrease and goes into 1 light rather than the opposing, increasing in light.
Like when you celebrate a holiday, you want like your greatest excitement and your greatest good to be right at that time.
Mm.
And then like as it goes away, it's kind of like more of like a sadness that you're heading away from.
Mm. Interesting.
Punchline. You got the punchline first, and then
For me, it brings up, I'm thinking about the oil, and there's more of it in the beginning than there is towards the end. Even though it might still be hanging on, it's going to go down a little bit each day.
I think like you have the higher number, but it's so like going into like they're all maybe going into become one on the last day when there's only one.
I mean, and
Yeah.
logistics, it's easier to put all the candles up and light them all the first day and then have to put up less.
That is true. That's a practical. It made me think of the sun, kind of very similar. That like there's only one sun, but it's like all coming into unity, like you said. But it's really interesting,
Yes.
like to see it. Like if we did actually operate like this, what would be going through our minds?
What would be the explanation of it?
Yeah.
It's easier to explain, small getting to be large, but large getting to be small.
Yeah.
It's like food.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So I can get into the food. That's right. That's right.
Oh.
Unless you're making a fungus. And then it gets bigger.
That's true. Okay. Do we want to unpack Hillels? It's kind of what we normally do, but what would be the significance for increasing in light?
Is that we're increasing the amount of light in the world, or in our homes and in the world.
Like sometimes you don't recognize things at the beginning, and then the more that you do it, like, and the bigger it gets. And, since you're supposed to like show the light that maybe the first couple of days people don't pay as much of attention until, you have to keep it going, because then it's more exciting if you keep it going.
True, I like that. You think? What's interesting to me is its correlation to like what we were talking about, how Hanukkah starts in Kislev, but then goes to Tevet, which is the darkest time of the year. Like, by like if we looked at like the darkest day of the year is December 21st. Now, obviously, it's on a lunar calendar in regards to that aspect of things. It's It's not a fixed date that's connected to the sun, but it is, you know, getting darker and darker at that time of year. So it's interesting that we would light more lights as representation to take us through that darker time, which is interesting.
The other holiday does also, the other one that's 25th. They also have the lights. I mean, again, it's the dark time of the year, so their decorations are lights, and they're trying to light the darkness also.
Never really thought about it from the Christian perspective. That makes sense. Do you want to continue?
Sure. Yula said there were two Amorim in the West, Eretz Yisrael, who disagreed with regard to this dispute. Rabbi Yossi bar Avnin and Rabbi Yossi bar Zavita.
One said that the reason for Beit Shammai's opinion is that the number of lights corresponds to the incoming days, i.e. the future. On the first day, 8 days remain at Hanukkah. One kindles 8 lights, and on the second day, 7 days remain. One kindles 7, etc.
The reason for Beit Hillel's opinion is that the number of lights corresponds to the outgoing days. Each day, the number of lights corresponds to the number of days of Hanukkah that were already observed.
Oh, all right. Okay. And one said that the reason for Beit Shammai's opinion is that the number of lights corresponds to the bulls of the festival of Sukkot. 13 were sacrificed on the first day, and each succeeding day, one fewer was sanctified. Numbers 29, 12 through 31. What did I say? Oh, wow, sacrificed. My bad.
The reason for Beit Hillel's opinion is that the number of lights is based on the principle.
One elevates to a higher level in matters of sanctity, and one does not downgrade. Therefore, if the objective is to have the number of lights correspond to the number of days, there is no alternative to increasing their number with the passing of each day. And I guess the bull was getting sanctified by being sacrificed.
Yeah, my bad.
No, there's probably a reason you said sanctified.
True. The real reason. Okay, so the other aspect, I want to see where we're at. We got about 15 minutes. Which we're pretty much at the end here. Kabbalah and dreams. So it's interesting. During Kislev, we read like Joseph's connection with us, like his dream. And so I have it here. Joseph's dream. There we go. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood around and bowed down to my sheaf. Genesis 37:7. So there's like a large connection to dreams and imagination during the Kislev, because we're in this lighter state of existence. Like, in order to be joyful, you can't really be heavy. It's hard. And you know, there's this connection with the divine, but through the dream world. So I'm gonna kind of unpack a little bit with what the Kabbalistic view on this is. Dreams are associated with the Sephirah of Yesod, the channel that bridges higher spiritual realms and the physical world. Joseph, the dreamer, is the archetype of Yesod, showing how divine inspiration can manifest in practical action. Practical insight. In Kislev, pay attention to your dream and inspirations. Journal them and explore how they may reflect divine messages or align with your higher purpose. I think what's interesting is like we just read that, right? And I said the word sanctify.
Right.
Right?
Right,
That I don't know why I said that.
right.
But then there was like, oh, well, there might be something there. There might be an insight there. There's a world that like there's so many layers to this world. You know, things that we may catch and things that like we may not always. It's just like almost hidden. And it's beautiful to kind of go into that unconscious world that like when we come out of dream state or you know we may be daydreaming, what are we thinking about? What's going on? Where are we being connected with the divine? And what are those little codes that we can actually bring into the conscious state? So I don't know, do you guys pay attention to your dreams at all?
Sometimes, well,
Do you get any insights?
I think more like perspective. Like not necessarily actionable things, but some maybe perspective on, something happened or something could happen, just to give you kind of an outlet.
I don't remember my dreams most of the time. I used like, especially when I was younger, I used to daydream a lot. Like I feel like as I've gotten older as an adult, like, sometimes we forget that inner child daydreaming, the imagination, and how powerful that actually is, and how much joy that brings in, for sure.
It's really interesting. So I got connected when I was living in Jerusalem with a woman named Chaya Lester. She's a therapist and also works with dreams. And like she has a couple books and that kind of help you to reflect on certain things, especially like how to work with your dreams. And I was like you for a long time, where I couldn't remember anything. It was like I went way too high up there and whatever, like it's gone, it's unconscious, And I started to dialogue with that, like it's like what we were talking about. We go and we say the Shema before we, go into dream time. That's like sometimes like, well, for me, if I notice when I don't do it and when I do, I might have scarier dreams when I don't say the Shema. But when I do, sometimes I can even say, help me remember my dream, or help me, like I'll have a question and I'll have the answer in the morning. So it's like a really unique way to dialogue with the divine, you know, um, and just like have a stronger connection. Joseph, like he he had these dreams that he didn't ask for. They were prophecies. And it was because he was a very unique guy, like, and he was open to having that connection. And his brothers definitely not, like they were like, no, like that's not how I want to dialogue, like I'm gonna do this physical thing or whatever, and it's sometimes it vibes, sometimes it doesn't. But here's some like practical things you can kind of do that help you in that world if that benefits you, essentially. And then let's see here. The letter of Kislev is Samak. Samak and protection. The letter Samak associated with Kislev, symbolizes divine support and protection. Its circular shape reflects the concept of encompassing divine light and wholeness. Practical meditation that you can do at home is visualize the circular shape of the samach, imagining yourself surrounded by divine protection and trust. So there's like a lot of
That's
little,
Somewhat like you just did with the one we did, we used the cloud instead of the sun.
totally. Actually, I really liked how that meditation turned out. I've never done that meditation in my life. Like I just kind of was like guided to a cloud. It was really cool.
I think that's something we think about, that we are under a cloud. God is protecting us
Yeah.
in life. Like, you know, when the Israelites were in the desert and the cloud was going over them, and, you know, the cloud by day and the moon by night. So it was a divine protection.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple things that I had in regards to action, and I'm noticing for some reason the way it printed out on the first one, I think some of it got cut off, but I think the essence is pretty much there. But for trust, write down 3 areas in your life where you need trust. Pray or meditate on them daily. I think that's what it actually said on the daily part. Light and darkness. Perform one act of kindness to lighten someone's burden. Dreams and imagination. Spend 10 minutes journaling about a dream or a goal. Visualize one step you can take. And miracles. Reflect on a personal miracle or gratitude moment. Share it with someone you trust. The last one that I had, I heard this idea and I thought it was kind of cool. When we're lighting the candles for Hanukkah, having an intention with each night, like maybe it's a night of faith, or it could be anything. It could be concepts, it could be things you want to like focus on more, but it's a nice way to kind of build in deeper meaning when you're lighting the candles for yourself and for your family. But that is today's class.
Very good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.